The night was cold, and the mining town lay silent under a pale moon. Rusted machines groaned in the distance, abandoned long ago, while the wind carried the taste of dust and metal. Inside a small wooden shack, a human sat by a weak fire, staring at the last bowl of food he had managed to save. It wasn't much, just a simple meal of bread and stew, but for him, it meant survival. His hands shook as he lifted the spoon. He was tired, hungry, and worn out from endless shifts in the mines. Nobody cared if he lived or died. To the world, he was just another worker, another forgotten man. Yet tonight, something felt different. He was not alone. From the corner of the shack, hidden in shadows, a pair of eyes watched him. They were not human eyes. They glowed faintly, like embers in the dark. The man froze, his spoon hanging in the air. He felt the weight of that stare press against his chest. Slowly, he set the spoon down and looked toward the corner. "Who's there?" he whispered. The darkness shifted. A figure stepped forward, thin, trembling, and wrapped in torn cloth. It was a girl, but not of earth. Her skin shimmered faintly under the firelight, pale with an almost silver hue. Her hair was tangled, falling across her face, and her lips were cracked with thirst. The human's breath caught. He had heard of them before: aliens, fugitives from the war in the stars. Dangerous, hunted. To be seen helping one meant death. The alien girl's knees buckled. She leaned against the wall, her chest rising and falling in sharp breaths. Her eyes locked onto the bowl of food in front of him. She said nothing, but the hunger in her gaze spoke louder than words. The man's heart pounded. He had nothing left but this one meal. If he gave it away, he would starve tomorrow. Yet if he refused, could he really watch her collapse in front of him? He stared at her for a long moment. His mind screamed to push her out, to save himself, but his hands moved on their own. Slowly, he pushed the bowl across the wooden floor, closer to her. Her eyes widened. She hesitated, as if she didn't believe it was real. Then, weakly, she crawled forward, took the bowl in her hands, and ate as if she had been starving for weeks. Each bite was desperate, yet silent tears rolled down her cheeks. The man watched her, unsure if he had just saved his soul or doomed his life. "Why are you here?" he asked quietly. She paused, the spoon shaking in her hand. Then she spoke, her voice soft, broken. "They hunt me." Before he could ask more, the sound of boots echoed outside. Heavy, sharp, and growing closer. Soldiers. The human stomach turned cold. Everyone in the town knew the patrols were searching for an alien fugitive, and now she was in his shack. The alien girl froze, her glowing eyes wide with fear. The bowl slipped from her trembling hands, clattering against the floor. The boots stopped outside the door. A harsh voice barked orders in the night. "Search every building. She's close." The man's pulse roared in his ears. He looked at the door, then at her. She was shaking, her body too weak to move fast. She would be caught in seconds. He swallowed hard. He could let them take her, pretend he never saw her, save his own life. But something inside him whispered otherwise. That one meal, that one choice, it had already tied their fates together. "Hide," he said sharply, motioning to the broken crates near the corner. She blinked, confused. Then, with the last of her strength, she crawled into the shadows as he piled broken boards around her trembling form. He tossed a dirty blanket over the pile, hiding every trace of her silver skin. The fire crackled. The room smelled of stew and dust. His heart thudded so loud, he was sure the soldiers would hear it. The door creaked open. A soldier stepped inside, his armor glinting in the firelight. His eyes scanned the shack, cold, sharp, searching for any sign of the fugitive. The human forced his hands to stay still. He picked up the spoon and pretended to eat, though his mouth was dry as stone. The soldier's gaze swept across the room. His boots crunched on the wooden floor, inching closer to the crates. The alien girl trembled silently beneath them, her glowing eyes barely hidden under the cloth. The soldier paused. He bent down and picked something up from the ground. A torn strip of alien fabric. The man's blood ran cold. The soldier's eyes narrowed. Slowly, his head turned toward the crates in the corner. The room was silent except for the fires. Faint crackle. The soldier took one step closer. Another. And then asterisk. The soldier's boots scraped against the wooden floor as he leaned closer to the pile of crates. His gloved hand reached out, hovering just inches from the rough boards. The human felt his chest tighten, every heartbeat louder than the crackling fire. Then another voice barked from outside. "Move, she's not here. Check the next shack." The soldier hesitated, his eyes narrowing at the human. Then, with a grunt, he tossed the fabric back onto the floor and stomped out, slamming the door behind him. The human didn't move for a long moment. His breath came in shallow gasps. When the sound of boots faded away into the night, he pulled the blanket back. The alien girl's glowing eyes peeked up at him, wide with fear. She was trembling so badly he could hear the wood creak beneath her. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered. Her voice was low, broken, yet filled with something deeper, a mix of shame and awe. He shook his head. "They would have killed you," she blinked, confused. "And you?" The question lingered in the silence. Before he could answer, shouting erupted outside. The soldiers hadn't gone far. They were spreading through the street, their torches cutting through the night like fiery spears. "They're sweeping the town," the human muttered, his voice tight. "If they come back, they'll tear this place apart." He looked at the girl. She was too weak to run, but staying meant certain death. The choice clawed at him. Stay safe and hand her over, or risk everything to get her out. His hand tightened around the edge of the table. He had already given her food, already hidden her once. There was no going back. "Come on," he said firmly. Her lips parted in surprise, but before she could argue, he pulled her up gently. She winced, her legs barely able to hold her, but she leaned on him, her silver-tinged skin glowing faintly in the firelight. They slipped out the back door, into the shadows of the mining town. The streets were narrow, lined with broken fences and rusted pipes. Torches flickered at every corner, voices echoing as soldiers tore open doors and kicked over barrels. The human kept low, guiding her through alleys he knew well. Every step was a gamble. Too fast and she'd collapse, too slow and the soldiers would catch them. Her breath came in sharp gasps. "Why? Are you helping me?" He didn't answer right away. His eyes scanned the rooftops, the corners, the glint of steel. Armor moving in the distance. Finally he muttered, "Because you looked hungrier than me." For a moment, despite her fear, a faint smile touched her lips. They reached the edge of town, where the old mining tunnels gaped like black mouths in the earth. The human hesitated. The tunnels were dangerous and stable, filled with shadows and memories of men who never came back. But they were the only chance. He pushed aside loose boards covering the entrance. "In here." The alien girl glanced at the darkness, her glowing eyes reflecting the faint moonlight. She seemed almost afraid of what waited inside. But with soldiers' voices drawing closer, she nodded. They stepped into the tunnel. The air was damp, heavy, with the smell of stone and rust. Water dripped from the ceiling, echoing through the dark like a steady heartbeat. The human lit a small lantern, its weak flame trembling. The walls closed in around them, the silence thick, broken only by her uneven breathing. She stumbled once, catching herself on the wall. He steadied her, his rough hands gripping her fragile arms. Her skin was cold, too cold, almost unnatural. "You can't go far like this," he muttered. She shook her head weakly. "I must. They can't catch me. If they do, everything is lost, everything." She bit her lip but said no more. Before he could press further, The echo of metal boots rang through the tunnel entrance behind them. The soldiers had found their trail. The human cursed under his breath. He grabbed her hand and pulled her deeper into the darkness. Their footsteps splashed in shallow puddles as the lantern shook wildly. The tunnel branched ahead 3 paths, each disappearing into blackness. He didn't know which way was safe. The girl closed her eyes as if listening to something beyond his senses. Then she pointed left. That way. He didn't ask how she knew. He just trusted. They ran. The sound of soldiers' shouts growing fainter, swallowed by stone. The tunnel curved sharply, then sloped upward. A faint glow shimmered ahead. Light. Not firelight. Not moonlight, something stranger. As they reached the opening, the human froze. Outside the tunnel, hidden in the valley, stood a small craft. Sleek, silver, and faintly humming with energy. Alien. The girl's eyes softened with relief. "Home," she whispered. But before hope could settle, a shrill mechanical screech filled the air. From above, red lights cut through the sky. Enemy drones, their lenses glowing like burning eyes, swarmed into view. The human's breath caught. He had no weapon, no plan. Just a dying alien girl at his side, and machines hunting them from the sky. The girl's voice shook as she whispered, "It's too late, they've found us." The drones descended, metal wings slicing the night. The night split open with the screech of machines. Drones swooped down like vultures, their red lights stabbing through the darkness. The human froze, the alien girl gripping his arm with trembling hands. The sleek silver craft stood just ahead, glowing faintly as if waiting for her. But it was out in the open. Reaching it meant running straight through the swarm. The girl's chest heaved. "If they catch us, they'll take me alive. They always take us alive." Her voice broke into a whisper. "Don't let them." The human's stomach twisted. He had no weapon, no training, nothing but a stubborn will to keep going. He looked at the drones circling above, their wings slicing the air, and then at her pale, glowing face. Something inside him hardened. "Stay behind me." He pulled her into the shadow of the rocks, ducking low as the first drone descended. Its red lens pulsed, scanning the ground. The hum of its engines rattled the air, growing louder as it locked onto movement. The human scooped up a fist-sized stone. His hand shook, but his aim was true. With a grunt, he hurled it. The stone smashed into the drone's eye, cracking the lens. Sparks flew, the machine screeching as it spiraled out of the sky and exploded against the rocks. The girl gasped, her eyes widening. You fight them with rocks?" He managed a grim smile. "I don't have much else." The explosion drew the others. 3 drones broke formation, their lenses glowing brighter as they dove. The human grabbed her hand and sprinted toward the silver craft. Every muscle in his body screamed, but fear drove him faster. The ground trembled with the drone's approach. Beams of red light swept across the valley, cutting through dust and shadows. One beam seared past his shoulder, scorching the ground where he had been seconds before. They slid behind a jagged boulder. The human's chest heaved, sweat dripping down his temple. The girl's hand was ice cold, her breath ragged. "We'll never reach it," he muttered. Double quotes. "Yes, we will," she said firmly, her glowing eyes fixed on the craft. "It's bonded to me. It will listen." She raised her trembling hand. A faint pulse of silver light sparked from her palm. Across the valley, the alien ship hummed louder, panels shifting as if awakening from a long sleep. The drone screeched, turning sharply toward the sound. The human swore under his breath, "You just called them all to us." But before the girl could answer, the ground shook. The ship's hull split open, a ramp unfolding like a tongue of light. Their way out had just revealed itself. The human didn't think. He pulled her to her feet, and they ran. Drones fired from above, beams cutting through dust and stone. One shot grazed his arm, searing pain burning through his sleeve. He stumbled, but she steadied him. "Don't stop!" she cried. The ramp glowed brighter, as if urging them forward. Each step felt like a lifetime, each second like borrowed time. The ship loomed larger, its silver surface reflecting the chaos. Then one drone swooped too low. The human ducked and with desperate fury swung another rock. The strike wasn't strong enough to break it, but it jarred the drone off course. It smashed into the valley wall and burst apart in a rain of sparks. The girl looked at him in disbelief. "How are you still alive?" "Bad luck," he panted. They reached the base of the ramp just as two more drones descended. The human shoved the girl up first, her fragile body crawling onto the glowing surface. He followed, but a drone fired its beam searing across his back. He roared in pain, but forced himself forward. The ship responded. The ramp retracted, snapping shut as the last drone slammed into it. The machine exploded in a shower of light, the ship trembling as it absorbed the impact. Inside, the air was different thick, humming with energy, glowing lines running across smooth walls. The girl collapsed onto the floor, her chest rising and falling fast. The human staggered, clutching his burned back. Now what? The girl turned her head, her glowing eyes soft but fierce. "Now, you see why I cannot be caught." Before he could ask, the ship lurched, engines roaring to life. The floor vibrated beneath them as the valley outside fell away. The human pressed against the wall, staring through the glass canopy as the world shrank below. The drones were not finished. More swarmed from the horizon, hundreds of red lights rising like a storm. The girl raised her trembling hand again, her silver light pulsing brighter this time. The ship's systems responded instantly, weapons unfolding from hidden compartments, energy bolts fired from the hull, striking drones in bursts of flame. The sky lit up with explosions, but the swarm was endless. The human stomach twisted. "We're not getting out of this." The girl's gaze flicked to him. "We will, because you fed me," he frowned. "What does that have to do with anything?" Her lips curved into a faint, almost sorrowful smile. "You don't know yet." "But they do." She pointed to the swarm. The drones were not attacking anymore. They hovered in perfect formation, their red eyes glowing, but none fired. It was as if they were waiting. The silence was worse than the noise. The human skin crawled. Then a deeper voice crackled through the air, not from the drones but from beyond metallic, commanding, "Bring him to us, the one who gave her the meal. He belongs to us now." The human's blood froze. The alien girl grabbed his arm, her eyes blazing. "No, you belong to me." The ship climbed higher, its engines trembling against the pull of the world below. The drones still hovered in the distance, their red eyes unblinking, waiting, watching. Inside, the human pressed his back against the cool wall, every breath sharp with pain. The burn across his shoulder throbbed, but it was nothing compared to the weight of those words, still echoing in his head. "He belongs to us now." The alien girl knelt beside him. Her silver skin shimmered faintly in the glow of the ship's lights. She touched his arm gently, and though her hand was cold, the warmth of her gaze steadied him. "They know," she whispered. "The meal, it bound you." His brow furrowed. "Bound me? What are you talking about?" She hesitated, her lips trembling, as if she feared the truth more than the machines outside. Finally she spoke, each word heavy with meaning. "In my people's law, when one shares food in the moment of greatest hunger, it is not kindness. It is an oath. A bond that cannot be broken." The human blinked. "I just gave you half a bowl of stew." Her glowing eyes held his, unwavering. "And now you are tied to me. By blood, by honor, by fate itself. To betray me is death. To protect me is to become more than you are." His chest tightened. He wanted to laugh, to tell her it was madness, but the fire in her voice silenced him. She wasn't speaking of myth. She was speaking of law. Ancient law. The ship jolted suddenly, pulling his thoughts back to the present. The swarm of drones moved as one, boxing them in. The girl stumbled toward the control pedestal, placing her glowing hand against its surface. The ship pulsed with life, lines of silver light racing across the walls. Through the canopy, the human saw the drones shift, as if responding, but instead of attacking, they formed an open path. A corridor of red light stretching into the stars. The human frowned. "They're letting us through?" "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They're leading us to their master." The ship obeyed the path, gliding forward. The human felt the weight of invisible chains pressing around him. His choice had been made the moment he pushed that bowl across the floor. Now he was caught in something far larger than himself. He turned to her. "Who are you really?" Her shoulders stiffened. For a moment, she stayed silent. Then she lifted her head, her voice no longer broken but strong. "I am Kelena, daughter of the House of Reeses, heir to the Silver Crown. My people call me Starbird, but to my enemies, I am a prize. If they capture me, the war ends before it begins." The words struck him like stone. She wasn't just a fugitive, she was royalty. He stared at her, disbelief cutting through the pain. "And I'm supposed to believe that giving you dinner makes me your, what, husband?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile, though sadness lingered in her eyes. "Not husband, guardian, champion, legend." The ship's lights pulsed brighter. As if a green dot, the human rubbed a hand across his face. He was no soldier, no champion, just a miner scraping by in a forgotten town. Yet here she was, calling him something more. Before he could reply, the ship burst through the clouds into orbit. Stars stretched endless across the void, cold and bright. And waiting for them was not safety, but a warship. It loomed like a floating fortress, its black hull covered in scars of countless battles. Hundreds of glowing windows lined its surface. Cannons shifted, locking onto their tiny craft. The girl's hand trembled against the control pedestal. "They found us faster than I feared." The comms crackled to life. A deep voice, metallic and cruel, filled the cabin. "Kelena of Reeses, and the human. The oath has been witnessed. Bring him forth, and perhaps we will spare your life." The human clenched his fists. "They don't want you. They want me." "They want both," she said sharply. Her eyes locked onto his, fierce and burning. "They fear what you are now. They fear the oath." The warship's cannons began to charge, glowing like suns ready to unleash fire. The small craft shuddered, trapped in their targeting sights. The human swallowed hard. "So what happens now?" She looked at him with a strange intensity, her voice both a promise and a plea. "Now you must choose. You gave me a meal. Will you give me your life too?" The ship jolted as warning shots flared past the hull, rocking them violently. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The choice was no longer distant. It was here. The human stared out at the massive warship, at the endless black swallowing the stars. His heart thundered, but deep inside, something had already shifted. He had fed a starving alien girl. He had hidden her, fought for her, bled for her. And now he was bound by something he didn't understand, yet could no longer deny. The girl whispered one final word, her glowing eyes locked on his. "Guardian." The small silver craft shuddered under the shadow of the massive warship. Its black hull stretched across the stars like a wall, bristling with cannons and glowing with predatory light. Inside, the human paced the narrow cabin, his burned shoulder aching with every step. Kelena stood at the control pedestal, her silver hand pressed against it, her glowing eyes locked on the monstrous vessel outside. "They'll board us," she whispered. "They won't destroy the ship, not while I'm inside." The human clenched his fists. "Then we run, find another way." She shook her head, her tangled hair falling across her pale face. "There is no running from them, not forever." Someone will betray us. They always do. The words sent a chill down his spine. He wanted to argue, but the truth was already pressing on him like the silence between the stars. The cum crackled again, that same cold metallic voice filling the cabin. Kalina of Reese's, hand over the human who fed you. Break the oath, and we will let your bloodline live. The human barked a bitter laugh. Generous, aren't they? But Kalina didn't laugh. Her gaze lowered, as if she was carrying the weight of worlds. Before he could speak again, the ship jolted. A docking clamp from the warship had latched onto them. The silver craft groaned, pulled like a fish on a hook knot. The human grabbed a steel bar from the wall, his pulse racing. Then we fight. Kalina turned to him, her voice quiet but sharp. If we fight, we both die. If we surrender, they will only take one of us. He froze. One of us? Her eyes glistened, and for the first time since he met her, he saw something deeper than fear-guilt. The airlock hissed. Shadows loomed beyond the door. Soldiers in black armor stormed inside, weapons gleaming. The human raised the steel bar, ready to go down swinging. But before he could move, Kalina stepped in front of him. Wait! She cried, her voice breaking. Don't hurt him, he's mine. By oath, the soldiers paused, their helmets tilting. As they looked at her glowing hand pressed against her chest, the human's grip on the bar tightened. His chest burned with anger. She wasn't shielding him. She was offering him. Kalina, what are you doing? Her eyes flicked to his, heavy with sorrow. Forgive me. The soldiers lowered their weapons slightly. Their leader, clad in heavier armor, stepped forward. His voice rumbled from behind the mask. You have chosen well. He will come with us. You may yet survive. The human's throat went dry. He had known betrayal before from miners who stole rations, from overseers who promised pay and delivered pain. But this cut deeper. Kalina whispered, It's the only way to keep you alive. Alive? His voice cracked with rage. Alive? As what? Their prisoner? Their trophy? The soldiers closed in, clamps snapping around his wrists, locking tight. The steel bar clattered to the floor. He struggled, but the weight of armored hands forced him down. His mind roared with fury, not at the chains, not at the soldiers, but at her. At the girl he had fed. At the girl who had called him guardian. The soldiers dragged him toward the airlock, toward the black maw of the warship. The metallic voice thundered again, echoing across the chamber. The oath is ours now. The human is ours. The legend dies here. The human spat blood, his voice raw. If you think I'll kneel for you, you're wrong. One of the soldiers slammed a fist into his gut, silencing him. Kalina's hands shook as she watched, every muscle in her body tense. She had saved his life, yes, but at the cost of his trust. As the airlock sealed, the warship's corridors swallowed him. Cold steel walls rose high, lined with banners of conquest. Chains dragged across the floor as he was hauled before an enormous chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. At the far end stood a throne of jagged iron, and on it sat the warlord. His armor glowed with crimson lines, his face hidden behind a cruel mask. The warlord leaned forward, his voice sharp as a blade. So this is the human who fed a starving princess. The miner who carries the oath of meals. He chuckled darkly. Pathetic, and yet dangerous. Your kind are weak, but your choices change empires. That I cannot allow. The soldiers shoved the human to his knees. His chains rattled as he forced his head up, his eyes burning with defiance. I didn't choose this, he growled. I just gave her food. The warlord's mask tilted, amusement in his voice. Exactly, and already the stars tremble. Behind them, the chamber doors slammed open. Kalina burst inside, her silver glow fierce and wild. She raised her hand, light blazing in her palm. Her voice cracked like thunder. Touch him, and I burn your throne to ash. The soldiers hesitated, their weapons trembling. The warlord's laughter echoed through the hall, deep and cruel. You betrayed him once, princess. Will you betray him again? Or will you defy the chains you helped fasten? The human stared at her, blood on his lips, fury in his chest. He wanted to scream at her, to curse her, to turn away. But his voice came out as a single broken whisper. Kalena, whose side are you really on? The warlord's laughter echoed through the iron chamber, rolling off the jagged walls like thunder. Soldiers held the human down, chains biting into his wrists, forcing him to kneel at the foot of the throne. Kalena stood across the hall, her glowing hand raised, silver light dripping from her palm like liquid fire. She looked torn apart, her face a storm of guilt, anger, and defiance. The warlord's mask tilted toward her. The oath cannot be undone, princess. You should know that better than any. You fed on his kindness, and now he is bound to you, but he will serve me. Kalena's jaw tightened. The meal oath is not yours to twist. The warlord rose from his throne. His massive frame cast shadows that swallowed the hall. He motioned, and the soldiers dragged a human forward, chains scraping the floor, then let the elders decide. His voice dripped with venom. If this human truly holds the bond, let him face judgment in the circle. The human spat blood onto the floor. Another trial? First your chains, now your gains? Why not just kill me and get it over with? The warlord leaned down, his crimson glowing eyes burning behind the mask, because legends are not killed in silence. They are broken. In front of witnesses. The chamber doors opened with a grinding roar. Soldiers pulled the human through winding corridors, Kalena forced to follow. The air grew colder, the walls etched with runes that glowed faintly at their approach. At last, they entered the circle. It was not a courtroom. It was a cavernous chamber beneath the warship's heart, lit by towering crystals that pulsed with alien energy. In the center was a great stone ring, carved with symbols older than empires. The floor shimmered faintly, as if alive. Around the ring stood the elders' figures cloaked in silver and black, their faces hidden, their voices carried like whispers from the void. The human was shoved into the ring. His chains vanished, melted away by unseen energy. He stumbled, his hands raw, his chest heaving. Kalena stood just beyond the circle, her glowing eyes fixed on him. One elder's voice echoed, cold and distant. The oath has been made. The alien fed, the human gave. By law, he is now guardian of the Starbird. Another voice, deeper, rumbled through the chamber. But he is human, weak, unworthy. The oath is an error, a corruption. He must be judged. The warlord spread his arms wide, then let him face the trial of chains. If he survives, he may keep the oath. If he falls, the bond ends, and Kalena belongs to me. The floor of the circle shifted. Chains rose from the stone like serpents, glowing with molten light. They lashed around the human's arms and legs, pulling him to his knees again. He gritted his teeth, straining against them, his muscles burning. Everywhere I go, you bastards love your chains, he spat. The elders ignored him. Their voices overlapped in whispers, reciting ancient words. The symbols on the floor blazed. Brighter, the chains tightening. Kalena pressed her palm against the barrier separating her from the ring. Stop this. He doesn't know your laws, your customs. An elder's voice silenced her. Then let him learn them, through pain. The chains began to glow hotter, searing into his skin. The human roared, his back arching, the smell of burning cloth filling the air, but he did not fall. He gritted his teeth, forcing his body forward, pulling against the chains. The elders watched in silence. The warlord's laughter rumbled like distant thunder. Kalena's fists struck the barrier. Enough, you cannot break him. The oath will hold. The human's vision blurred, his body screaming, but his mind sharpened. He remembered the girl collapsing in his shack, eyes hollow with hunger. He remembered pushing the bowl toward her, choosing her life over his own. That memory lit a fire in him. With a primal roar, he tore against the chains. Sparks burst, the stone floor cracking under his feet. The elders leaned forward, their whispers rising into a storm. The chains shattered. Caverns shook. The crystals blazed white, flooding the chamber with blinding light. The human stood in the center of the ring, smoke rising from his burned wrists, but his body unbroken. Kelena's eyes widened, tears brimming as she whispered, "Guardian." The warlord's laughter cut through the silence, but it was edged with unease. So the human resists. Impressive. But one trial does not make a legend. He must still bleed for it. The elders raised their voices as one, their words shaking the chamber. The oath is confirmed. The human is bound to the princess of Reeses. To break this bond, he must face the final trial. The arena of crowns. The human's chest heaved, sweat dripping down his face. He staggered, but he stood tall, his voice raw. "Another trial? Fine. Line up whoever you want. I'll keep breaking your chains until there's none left to shatter." The warlord's mask tilted, and for the first time, the edge of uncertainty flickered in his voice. "Then you will fight not chains, human, but champions, and only death will end it." Kelena pressed her hand against the barrier, her voice breaking. "You don't have to do this." The human met her gaze, his voice steady despite the pain. "I already did. When I gave you that meal." The arena of crowns was carved into the heart of the warship, a coliseum of steel and fire. Thousands of alien eyes stared down from towering balconies, their voices rising in a thunderous chant. The ring below was lit by blazing torches, their flames casting long shadows across blood-stained sand. The human stood at the center, stripped of chains but armed with nothing. His burned wrists throbbed, his ribs ached, yet his jaw was set in stubborn defiance. He had no armor, no weapon, only his will. Across the ring, massive gates groaned open. From the darkness stepped the first champion. Towering, scaled, wielding a blade longer than the human's body. Its eyes glowed with hatred, its roar shaking the arena. The warlord's voice thundered above the crowd. "Miner, guardian, oath-bearer, face the champions of empires, and die." The champion charged. The human moved not with strength, but with speed. He rolled aside, dust exploding under his boots as the blade smashed into the sand. He snatched a broken chain from the ground, wrapping it around his hand like a crude whip. The crowd roared as he swung it, striking the champion's eye. The beast bellowed, blinded, stumbling forward. The human leapt onto its back, wrapping the chain around its throat, pulling with every ounce of strength left in his battered body. The champion crashed to the ground, thrashing. The chain cut deep, sparks flying as scales tore. Then, with one last heave, the beast went still. The arena fell silent for a heartbeat, then erupted in screams. Kelena pressed her hands against the crystal barrier, her glowing eyes wide with fear and pride. "Guardian," she whispered. The gates opened again. Another challenger. And another. They came in waves, armored brutes, clawed hunters, machines dripping with fire. Each time, the human fought with nothing but grit, scavenging weapons from the fallen, using speed where strength failed, using cunning where power could not. He was cut, burned, bruised, yet he never stayed down. Each time he rose, bloodied but unbroken, the crowd's chant shifted. What began as jeers twisted into awe. The human, the oath-bearer, the legend. The warlord watched from his throne, his mask hiding his fury. This was not how it was meant to end. The human was supposed to break, to die quietly in front of all. Instead, he was turning the arena into a story that could not be silenced. At last, the warlord rose. His voice cut through the chaos. "Enough!" The final gates opened, and from them, he himself stepped down. The warlord towered over the human, his crimson armor blazing, a blade forged from pure light in his hand. The arena trembled with the weight of his presence. The human's body screamed to collapse, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. He raised his makeshift chain whip, his chest heaving. "You want me dead?" he shouted, his voice echoing through the Colosseum. "Then come take me yourself." The warlord charged, his blade cleaving the air. Sparks erupted as steel met light. The human dodged, every movement born not of training but of desperation, instinct, survival. The chain wrapped around the warlord's wrist, pulling, yanking, but the warlord was too strong. He hurled the human across the arena, his body smashing into the sand. The crowd gasped, silence falling. The human coughed blood, his vision blurring. The warlord raised his blade, ready to end it. Then he heard her, Kelena's voice, breaking through the roar of the crowd. "Guardian, remember the meal. Remember why you fight." The human's eyes cleared. He saw her face starving, trembling, as she had been in his shack. He remembered pushing the bowl toward her, not for glory, not for legend, just because she needed it more than he did. That memory lit a fire that no blade could cut. With a roar, he rolled aside as the warlord's blade struck. He lunged, wrapping the chain around the warlord's throat, pulling with everything he had left. The warlord staggered, clawing at the steel. The human climbed his back, tightening, choking, refusing to let go. The warlord thrashed, his blade falling from his grip. The arena shook with the struggle. Then, with a final desperate pull, the warlord collapsed, his mask cracking, his body slamming into the sand. Silence. The crowd stared. Stunned. The human staggered to his feet, blood dripping from his mouth, his body trembling. He raised the broken chain high above his head. The silence shattered into thunder. The arena roared, the chant rising from thousands of alien voices. "Guardian! Guardian! Guardian!" Kelena fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. He had done it. He had become what the oath promised. The elders' voices filled the air, their judgment final. The meal oath is sealed. The human is guardian of the starburn. His kindness is legend, his defiance eternal. The human turned, his gaze finding Kelena through the barrier. His voice was hoarse, but steady. "I told you. It was just a meal." She smiled through her tears, her whisper, carrying across the chamber, "And you changed the stars with it."